Okay, so what I'm doing now, I'm onto the second floor. So I'm starting to run all the lines through the second floor, and then I'll have to go up into the attic, obviously. What I thought about doing originally was running two separate stacks. So that stack right there for the vent line, and then the stack in between these two studs here, and then connect up above in the attic. The one problem I have, though, is that the vent line up in the attic is only probably, I would say, 18 inches to 2 feet tall at the most. So trying to put T's in and all that to connect up those two lines is would be very challenging, very hard to do up there. And trying to glue all that up in a confined space like that would just be too hard. So what I've decided to do instead is I'm going to run this old vent line, since I have to raise this anyway for the new sink that's going to go in the bathroom. This vent line is going to come up. I've got two 22.5 degree elbows that are going to go on here, and they're going to come out like this, and then it's going to go straight up, and it's going to cross over here, and then I'll have a T on like that. You just have to make sure it's oriented correctly. And as you can see there, the T will connect up there, and it's going to carry the line all the way across. All the way across there. And then it's going to meet up with the 1.5 inch pipe that's coming up through there. So I'll talk a little bit, I'll show you all that later on. One of the challenges I have here is right down there, as you can see, I've got a couple copper lines. So I need to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with those before I put that vent line in, because I don't want to be soldering too close to that vent line. So what I may end up doing, I thought about using copper, but I may end up going with PEX, just because of the flexibility of the PEX and not having to worry about soldering in these little confined spaces with all this vent line in here. So that's what I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and do, is just convert over to PEX. Okay, so I just completed my 200th trip to Home Depot this month. Probably, I don't know how many trips I've been to Home Depot, at least 2-3 times a day sometimes. So what you're seeing here is I bought two SharkBite female adapters to solder onto the copper so that I can convert those lines to PEX lines. So those are soldered on, and I took a mirror because I'm really kind of paranoid when it comes to soldering copper. I took a mirror and stuck it behind these two fittings just to check to make sure that the solder flowed all the way around, and it did. So those are all ready to go. And so how this is going to work, as you can tell right there, this one is slightly cut back. That's the hot water line. This one is the cold water, so it's a little further out this way. And then I'll have a couple elbows that look like this, so that the lines go up the wall. And I wanted to make sure that those two lines run parallel, but also I want to make sure that at the top, when I start to go this way through the wall to go that direction, to hook up with the other water lines that are coming from the opposite side of the wall, that I don't have this elbow inside the wall. So I got to be really conscious of that, and that's so that I can put the crimp ring on later on to attach the PEX. So those are things you have to really consider when doing this. This is something that, a lot of this plumbing is just a lot of planning more than anything, and the actual work is what takes less time. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on. So I thought I'd show you something here real quick. I made a mistake and made this hole too small. So I've decided to go ahead and enlarge it. It's currently 2 9/16, and I want to make it 3 1/8. Because the reason why I'm doing that is I need to be able to go through this stud and this stud here all in one shot. So what I've had to do here, as you can see, is I took a piece of plywood that is probably, I would say, about 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, it's probably more like 1/2 of an inch smaller than the size of this hole here, so I can see both sides of the hole. And I already knew the measurements here from the edge of this wall to the center, so I used a framing square to measure from there to there. The other option is you can take, obviously, the hole saw or whatever you used I used a speed bit in my case, and a self-feeding bit. And you can put it over this and just kind of eyeball it, and then find the center. Then I took a punch and punched a hole right there, and then drilled right with a 1/4 inch bit through this hole. So now I have a center established, so it won't move around on me. And then now all I have to do is take my 3 1/8 inch hole saw there and start to drill a new hole. So as you can see, I got my hole established now. I'm just going to take this chunk of plywood out, and then I'll just cut my hole, just continue finishing off this hole here, and that should do it. And there you go. Okay, so I'm up in the attic. There's a pipe that goes through the roof. And I had to use a fern coat coupling. Good thing is I had a couple extras in the garage, so that worked out great. I had to make sure the angle was right for the elbow at the bottom there going up to that pipe that goes out through the roof. Okay, so I'm installing the PEX now. I've got blue for cold and red for hot water. And there it is right there. Basically it's I've got a couple female adapters that I've soldered on. And there's the cold water going up through the top here. And it's going to come down, and then there's a T right there so I can run some water into the toilet tank. And there's the where it connects up with the rest of the circuit. And then the red for the hot water is just going to go basically straight up and then across and then down. Okay, so I've got the PEX all installed. Both the hot water and the cold water are all installed. I still have to hook up the tank to the lines also, of course. The tank for the toilet. And I would recommend, personally, I would recommend spending the money and just getting the tool. I tried to rent one at Home Depot, but they don't rent those tools, so this is a shark bite. All the fittings and lines that I'm using here are shark bite. This one is the 23251. That's the model number. And it does 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch PEX. And it comes with this gauge here. This is the go, no-go gauge. So how it works is basically, I'll give you an example here. The 1/2 inch go side, right there, you put that over a fitting, or where you crimped, and it should fit fairly easily over that. If it doesn't fit, then that tells you that you haven't crimped it enough and you got to continue on. I did most of these. I did probably a couple crimps each one, just to make sure that it fit correctly. And I've checked them. I've double checked all the joints to make sure that they're nice and snug. Okay, so I've got the waste pipe installed there. I had to install a block of wood behind the reducer. This is an increaser reducer is what it's called. It goes from 3 inch to 4 inch. But the way it was angled, it was too far back under the floor here, so I had to put a block behind it to push it out a little bit. And then I've got the waste pipe in there. And that's about the right height. I've checked that multiple times to make sure. And so I'm going to go ahead. I've got a couple holes drilled. There's one over there and one right there. That's for the feet of the carrier. And then once I get the carrier in a position, what I'll do is install a couple blocks behind the carrier up here to support it up above. The carrier is installed. Got 2 lag screws in the bottom there. And I've got 2 blocks up here. One over here and one over here. So what we're doing now is finishing up the installation. Shot of the water line that's going into the tank, right off that PEX line there. And I put a little bit of pipe dope on there also. Okay, so the toilet is installed, and I actually had to check for leaks, and I found one leak on the fitting right over there. It's just a really slow drip, so I've got to go ahead and pull that off and resolder that connection. So I'm going to be using a crimp removal tool. I had to spend 20 bucks for that, so I can remove those crimp rings on that PEX pipe. Then I'll pull off the brass fitting and solder a new one on. I could probably reuse the old one, but I'm just going to put a new one on it. And then I'll connect everything back up and see how it looks. But that's the only leak I had in the whole system, it appears. Okay, the toilet's all installed, and as you can see I still have a hole in the floor that I need to fill. I may end up filling that hole and then putting another sheet of vinyl over the top of this vinyl that's in here. So we'll see how that goes. This is a very nice looking toilet. It's very sleek looking, and as you can tell by looking on the floor down there, right in this area here, that's the caulk from the old toilet. So we're saving a ton of floor space here because that's the base of the toilet. So the actual, the part of the bowl would have been out here somewhere. So we're saving probably, I would say probably about 12 inches of space by having a wall-mounted toilet, in addition to the fact that I can raise the ceiling downstairs now. I've got some cement board up, which is recommended by Kohler that you install cement board. I guess it provides more strength. And also have some drywall up. This is all temporary. This is going to be pulled down later on when I actually remodel this bathroom. And this one should go quite a bit faster than the one downstairs, just because of the fact that I have more experience now, but also because there's not the extensive amount of damage that the bathroom downstairs had. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and test this out. I'm going to start with a low flow first. And so I'll hit this first button up here on the right. You can hear that flush really well. There's no gurgling sound or anything like that. So I'm hoping the venting that I modified was done correctly. And then you can hear in the background the tank is filling. And then once that fills, I'll go ahead and do the high flow flush too. So that was pretty quick. It filled up already. So I'll go ahead and hit the button up here on the left hand side. Very nice. So that's pretty much it. This was a really difficult project, but it seems to have turned out pretty well. Thanks for watching.